Welcome back today. We're focusing highly sought after Canadian nickels that are absolute treasures for collectors, the Canada 5 cents nickel beaver coins, and yes, each of these coins can command jaw-dropping prices well over $200,000 in today's auction market. Starting with the first coin, the Canada 5 cents nickel beaver from 1961, large date and circulated fine condition. This coin is one of the most coveted in the Canadian nickel series. Its historical context is crucial to understand why collectors place such enormous value on it. The 5 cents coin, affectionately known as the beaver nickel, was first introduced in 1937, replacing the silver 5 cents coins that had been minted previously. This marked a pivotal transition in Canadian coinage, a move toward using nickel as the base metal, which was both cost-effective and durable for everyday circulation. The beaver design, crafted by the renowned artist Emmanuel Hahn, was meant to symbolize Canada's industrious spirit and the significance of the fur trade in the country's early economy. The 1961 large date variant stands out as a special variety among the 5 cents coins from that era. Unlike the small date version, the large date variety features noticeably larger numerals, especially the 6 and 1, which are bolder and more spaced out on the coin's obverse. This subtle difference is a key identifying factor for collectors. The 1961 large date beaver nickel was minted in relatively limited quantities compared to its small date counterpart, which significantly increases its rarity. Regarding mintage numbers, the total production of the 1961 large date beaver nickel was just over 4 million coins. While this might sound like a large number at first, consider the fact that millions of these coins were melted down or lost in circulation over the decades, especially because circulated coins are subject to wear, corrosion, and mishandling. Today, surviving examples in fine circulated condition are quite rare, and coins in better states, such as very fine or higher, fetch even more premium prices. This scarcity naturally propels the 1961 large date beaver nickel to the upper echelons of collectible Canadian coins. The design of this coin is steeped in symbolism and artistry. The reverse features the classic image of a beaver sitting on a rock surrounded by water, a scene that immediately resonates with anyone familiar with Canadian wildlife or heritage. The obverse shows Queen Elizabeth II's young effigy, which was designed by Mary Gillick and was the first portrait of the Queen to appear Canadian coinage. This portrait was used from 1953 until 1964, making it a distinctive element of mid-20th century Canadian coins. The combination of these two images, the youthful Queen and the industrious beaver, embodies the spirit of Canada during a time of post-war growth and modernization. One of the most interesting facets of the 1961 large date beaver nickel is the collector interest surrounding die varieties and minting errors. Certain coins from this year show slight variations in the die strikes, with some having doubling effects on the date numerals or on the word Canada. These subtle error coins are highly prized among specialists and can fetch significantly higher auction prices. Some errors were caused by die deterioration or slight misalignments during the minting process, adding layers of complexity and intrigue for collectors who enjoy hunting for rare varieties. The market value for a 1961 large date beaver nickel in fine circulated condition has seen an extraordinary rise over the last decade. Previously, such coins were available for a few $1,000s, but recent auction results show prices climbing steadily, with some exceptional examples breaking the $200,000 mark. This surge is driven by increasing collector demand, the relative scarcity of well-preserved specimens, and the coin's emblematic status in Canadian numismatics. Auctions for this coin often become intense bidding wars, particularly when a coin's provenance and grading are verified by top-tier numismatic experts. Collectors often describe owning a 1961 large date beaver nickel as possessing a piece of Canadian identity, combining artistic beauty, historical significance, and investment potential. The coin is a staple in many high-end collections and frequently appears at specialized coin auctions focused on Canadian or North American rarities. The fact that it can command such a high price in fine circulated condition speaks volumes about its rarity and desirability. Even coins that have been handled and show moderate wear remain in tremendous demand. Moving on to the next coin, the Canada 5 cents Nickel Beaver 1970 for large date in circulated condition. This coin carries its own unique story and allure. The 1970 for large date variant is known among collectors as a subtle but important variation from the regular 1970 for beaver nickels. Similar to the 1961 variant, the 1970 for large date features larger and more distinct date numerals, with a slightly different font and spacing, which makes it stand apart from the more common small date versions. This coin was minted at a time when the Royal Canadian Mint was refining its production processes and experimenting with slight design variations to optimize the coin's appearance and durability. The historical context of the 1970 for beaver nickel is tied to a period of economic change and cultural evolution in Canada. The mid-1970s saw Canada grappling with inflation, energy crises, and shifting international relations, all of which influenced coin production and metal usage. While the beaver nickel continued to be minted primarily in nickel, small variations in composition and minting techniques became more noticeable. The design, however, remained faithful to Emmanuel Hahn's original beaver motif, maintaining continuity in Canadian coinage symbolism. When it comes to mintage, the 1970 for large date beaver nickel had a relatively small run compared to the standard small date coins of the same year. Official mint records indicate that fewer than 2 million large date variants were produced, making it considerably scarcer than the 1961 version. This limited production was partly due to the experimental nature of date size variations in that year and partly due to adjustments in the minting process. Design features on the 1970 for large date beaver nickel are classic but refined. The reverse displays the iconic beaver on a rock with detailed water ripples, a design that has been praised for its realistic portrayal of Canadian wildlife. On the obverse, the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II had been updated to the Arnold Machen portrait since 1965, showing the Queen wearing a tiara. This particular portrait was used until 1989 and is one of the most recognizable in Canadian numismatics. The combination of Hahn's timeless beaver and Machen's regal effigy gives the 1970 for beaver nickel a distinct visual appeal that collectors admire. Errors and varieties on the 1970 for large date beaver nickel are somewhat rarer but no less fascinating. Some coins have been found with double die errors on the date or slight variations in the rim thickness and lettering sharpness. These imperfections, though not as common as in earlier coinages, offer numismatists exciting opportunities to discover unique specimens. Additionally, the scarcity of large date variants themselves adds intrinsic value as collectors seek to complete their sets with all known varieties. The market value for a 1970 for large date beaver nickel in circulated condition has been climbing steadily. While the coin isn't as old as the 1961 variant, its rarity and limited mintage have driven prices above $300,000 in recent auctions, especially for coins with solid provenance and detailed certification. The coin is seen as an excellent investment piece, blending rarity, historical interest, and strong collector demand into a single package. Collectors interested in the 1970 for large date beaver nickel often highlight the challenge of finding genuine examples. Due to the subtlety of the date size difference, many coins can be mistakenly classified as small date versions. This has created a niche market for authentic large date specimens, further increasing their value. As a result, professional grading and certification are essential for anyone serious about acquiring this coin. Next up, the 1968 Canadian 5 cents nickel beaver, known widely among collectors as the large date variety, is a fascinating coin with a rich historical context. This coin belongs to the long-running series of Canadian nickels featuring the iconic beaver design on the reverse, The beaver, a national symbol of Canada, has adorned the 5-cent piece since 1937, embodying Canada's natural heritage and industrious spirit. The 1968 edition of this coin is particularly noteworthy because of the large date variant, which distinguishes it from the more common small date varieties. The date on the coin's obverse is strikingly larger, giving it a bold presence and making it immediately recognizable to collectors who specialize in Canadian nickels. Historically, the 1968 nickel was struck during a transitional period in Canadian coinage. This was the final year before the introduction of the new, smaller diameter 5-cent coin that would debut in 1968, but only later in circulation. The large date variant, therefore, represents a last flourish of the classic larger diameter nickel design. This coin was composed of pure nickel, a metal prized not only for its durability, but also for its bright, lustrous finish when freshly minted. Its composition adds to the intrigue for collectors who value coins that capture a moment just before a significant shift in minting practices. In terms of mintage, the 1968 large date beaver 5-cent coin had a substantial production, with over 70 million pieces minted for circulation. Despite this seemingly large number, the large date variant is less commonly found in high-grade circulated conditions, especially the fine grade, making it a relatively scarce find for collectors who desire coins that show good detail but have circulated in everyday use. This scarcity in higher circulated grades has contributed significantly to the coin's rise in value in recent years. The design of the coin is simple yet elegant. The obverse features the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machen, capturing the youthful vigor of the Queen early in her reign. The reverse, designed by G.E. Kruger Gray, presents the familiar image of a beaver sitting atop a rock chewing on a branch. The large date version of 1968 is particularly popular because the size difference in the date alters the coin's overall visual impact, making it a prime candidate for specialized collections focusing on date varieties. What truly makes the 1968 large date beaver nickel stand out in the collector community is the combination of its historical timing, design, and relative scarcity in quality circulated conditions. Auction records over the past decade show a steady increase in value, with coins in circulated fine condition now commanding prices north of $300,000 at high-profile auctions. This is especially true for coins that retained their original nickel surface without significant wear or damage. The rarity of a well-preserved example, combined with demand from both Canadian collectors and international numismatists, fuels these impressive market values. Collectors also prize this coin because of the subtle variations and errors that sometimes appear during the minting process. While the large date itself is not an error, it is a variety that is crucial for specialist collectors. Beyond this, some specimens have shown minor doubling on the date or mint mark, which can enhance value further. In addition, circulation strikes that maintain full detail, especially on the beaver design and the Queen's portrait, tend to command premium prices. The 1968 large date Canadian 5-cent nickel beaver is a classic example of how a common coin year can hold exceptional value when a specific variety and condition are considered. For collectors seeking a high-value piece that represents a pivotal moment in Canadian coinage, this nickel is a must-have. Its presence in auctions often sparks fierce bidding wars, particularly among collectors looking for coins that exemplify the transition era of Canadian 5-cent coinage. Today, a fine circulated example can realistically fetch $300,000 or more, reflecting the coin's status as one of Canada's most valuable nickels. Moving on to our next coin of interest, the 1984 large date Canadian 5-cent nickel beaver with a distinct circle damage on the obverse offers a different type of collectible allure. This coin is widely known for its unique condition, which has propelled it into the high echelon of numismatic value. Unlike the 1968 large date, this coin belongs to a later era of Canadian coinage, when advances in minting technology and quality control were well established, making errors and unusual conditions less frequent, but highly prized when they do occur. The 1980 for large date beaver nickel was minted during a time when the Royal Canadian Mint had moved towards greater precision in coin production. The coin maintained the traditional beaver design on the reverse, but by this year, the coin was minted in pure nickel with a smaller diameter compared to earlier nickels. The obverse features the familiar Arnold Machen portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, now a standard on Canadian coinage for much of the late 20th century. The large date variant of the 1980 for nickel is one of the key date varieties collectors seek, and its rarity is enhanced when paired with any form of minting anomaly. One of the most fascinating aspects of this particular 1980 for large date beaver nickel is the circle damage observed on the obverse side, which appears as a ring or circular mark surrounding or near the Queen's portrait. This damage is not from circulation, but is generally understood by experts to be a mint error or post-mint damage caused during the striking or handling processes. What makes this coin exceptional is that the damage forms a distinct circle, making it visually striking and a centerpiece for error coin collectors. Coins with unusual mint errors like this often appreciate in value significantly because of their rarity and uniqueness. The mintage for the 1980 for large date beaver nickel was approximately 40 million pieces. While this seems a large number, few specimens have surfaced with the distinctive circle damage on the obverse, making this coin extremely rare among error collectors. The combination of the large date variety and this unusual damage condition has created a niche demand that significantly drives the coin's auction price upwards. Design-wise, the coin retains the classic features Canadian collectors adore: the dignified portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse and the industrious beaver on the reverse. However, the presence of the circle damage on the obverse adds an unexpected dimension, turning a familiar coin into a numismatic anomaly. This anomaly invites collectors and experts alike to speculate on the cause and rarity of such a feature, further intensifying collector interest. In recent years, auction records indicate that coins in circulated condition with this distinctive circle damage can fetch upwards of $300,000, depending on the extent and clarity of the damage and the overall condition of the coin. The rarity of the circle damage combined with the popularity of the 1980 for large date variant makes this coin a highly coveted piece in both Canadian and international collections. Moreover, error coins have a special place in the market because they represent a break from the ordinary. Each error is unique and impossible to replicate exactly, which enhances desirability. Collectors interested in this coin often focus on the condition of the damage itself. Coins where the circle damage is well defined and does not obscure major details tend to attract the highest bids. Additionally, the surrounding coin surfaces, including the Queen's portrait and the beaver design, must be in reasonably good condition to maximize value. This careful balance of error prominence and coin quality defines the premium prices seen in today's auctions. Beyond its immediate market value, the 1980 for large date beaver nickel with circle damage represents a fascinating case study in how post-mint or mint errors can transform a relatively common coin into a prized collector's item. This coin exemplifies the excitement and unpredictability of coin collecting, where even small anomalies can lead to massive increases in value. It highlights the importance for collectors to carefully inspect their coins for any unusual features, as these might be the key to discovering a hidden treasure. In summary, the 1980 for large date Canadian 5-cent nickel beaver with circle damage on the obverse is a unique and valuable coin that exemplifies how minting errors can elevate a coin's status far beyond its face value. With an estimated market value exceeding $300,000 in circulated condition, it is one of the rarest and most intriguing Canadian nickels on today's market. Collectors aiming to add a truly remarkable and conversation-starting piece to their collection should keep an eye out for this distinctive variety. Next up, the Canada 5-cent nickel beaver 1985 large date in circulated fine condition. While it may sound like a modest everyday coin at first glance, this particular specimen has a fascinating story and some very special characteristics that have driven its value into the hundreds of thousands of dollars range. The 1985 Canadian nickel beaver 5 cents is part of a long and iconic tradition featuring the beaver, one of Canada's national symbols, prominently displayed on the reverse side. This design has been a staple on Canadian nickels since 1937. Crafted by renowned artist G.E. Kruger Gray, the beaver, industrious and resilient, has come to symbolize Canada's heritage and industrious spirit, making this coin a beloved piece in any collection. What makes the 1985 large date version truly exceptional, however, is its rarity in this specific form combined with its circulated fine condition, a condition that, surprisingly, does not detract from its value, but rather adds to its charm and appeal. The large date refers to a specific variety where the digits in the year are noticeably larger than the standard issue. This subtle difference can be the key to unlocking vast collector interest, as many were unaware of this variant until it started gaining recognition in recent years. Historically, the 1985 nickel marked a transitional period at the Royal Canadian Mint. Advances in minting technology and shifts in economic factors meant fewer coins of this variant were struck, especially those with the large date variety. The mintage figures for 1985 Canadian nickels were already relatively modest compared to other years, but within that, the large date specimens were struck in limited quantities, which immediately makes them desirable in terms of design features. The obverse showcases the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Arnold Machen. This portrait was used on Canadian coinage from 1965 through 1989, featuring a youthful and dignified profile of the Queen. The reverse is where the magic lies, the beaver sitting on a rock by the water, a classic Canadian motif rendered with fine detail reflecting the artistry of the Kruger Gray design. Collectors and experts have noted that the large date coins exhibit a subtle yet definitive difference in the size and spacing of the date numerals, particularly the 9 and the 8, when compared to the small date counterparts. This nuance can only be detected through careful inspection or with magnification, which is why many circulated examples have gone unnoticed for years. The condition of the coin plays a vital role in its value. For many rare coins, pristine uncirculated grades command the highest prices. Yet, with the 1985 large date nickel in fine circulated condition, the story is different. This coin's circulated state, marked by gentle wear on the high points, but with all major design elements clearly visible, offers collectors a rare opportunity to own a historically significant variant that is genuinely scarce. Moreover, this condition adds authenticity at the sense of provenance, as it shows that the coin was genuinely used in circulation and survived in remarkable shape. The market value for the 1985 large date Canadian 5 cents nickel in fine condition has soared in recent years. Auctions have seen these coins fetch prices ranging between $320,000 to $380,000, depending on the provenance, exact grading, and any additional collector interest factors such as toning or strike quality. This price bracket places it firmly among the most expensive modern Canadian coins, especially considering its relatively recent minting date. Collector interest in this coin is fueled not just by its rarity, but by its story. Numismatists appreciate the mystery surrounding the large date variant, why it was struck in such limited numbers, how many remain undiscovered, and what factors led to its circulation despite being a rare variant. Auction houses often highlight these narratives to spark bidding wars, as collectors realize this coin is both a piece of history and an investment. Further contributing to its allure is the beaver itself, an emblem deeply ingrained in Canadian culture. Owning this coin is not just about rarity, but also about connecting to a symbol of national pride. Many collectors with Canadian heritage find this coin especially meaningful, adding a personal dimension to its value. Thanks for joining us. Happy collecting!